It's nice to see you again, Westchester. Thank you for joining us for our 2025 Digital Candidate Forum. I'm AuCièl Hicks, Political Correspondent for the Westchester Chronicle. Once again, we reached out to the candidates listed on your ballot here in Westchester with the opportunity to share a bit about themselves and their goals for the community in their own words. The following interviews will air in the order in which the candidates appear on the ballot, and, in the interest of transparency, interviews are entirely unedited. Here is what the candidates had to say.
What is your name and what role or office are you running for in this election?
My name is Daniel Wassmer. I am running for Superior Court Judge.
And why are you running for this role and what motivated you to enter this race?
I was asked by members of the Liberal Party, which is a new party that had formed. It was actually part of the Keystone Party, which itself was part at one time of the Libertarian Party, and it was the way they've described it is a more less conservative branch of the Libertarian Party, so to speak. I would think they're more centrist. I know online it says that it's more left leaning. I'm not entirely sure that's true, but what can I tell you? I mean, that's a quick summary of that issue. One of the primary reasons that I'm actually running also is to try to get some other people involved in as political choices, so that people who would otherwise feel that they have nobody there to vote for or to speak for them actually would have a candidate and an option.
And why do you believe you're the best candidate for this role?
I actually have more experience than the other two candidates. I've practiced law for 35 years now. I've actually been involved as a government attorney at one point. I have, believe it or not, handled some matters as a hearing officer. I was a employee grievance hearing officer. One of the issues with judges is that they have to evaluate people, and I'm actually a college professor also. So I regularly evaluate students. In addition, being a judge is not necessarily the hardest thing in the world. My best friend when I was growing up is actually a Supreme Court justice in New York, and I spent a lot of time debating issues with him as a youngster, and I'm sure I'm qualified to be a judge based upon the fact that he's a judge and so on. So it shouldn't be a big issue.
And what would you say to voters who are undecided about supporting you?
Well, one of the things you're supposed to be looking for in a judge is independence. And it's strange the way the election law is written, because independents technically can't cross-file, but the Code of Judicial Conduct kind of sort of requires cross-filing. However, if an independent candidate actually does cross-file, they would actually be barred from running as an independent candidate. So, as an independent, the only independent candidate on the ballot, I probably have the greatest trait for independence and to be able to view things objectively. The other two parties or the other two candidates are either Republican or Democrat. They have to cross-file to create the appearance of independence. I'm an independent. So I'm independent before an election. I'm independent after an election.
If elected, what is the first thing you'd aim to accomplish or the first goal that you would have in this position?
It's actually interesting because most of the administrative function for the Superior Court is actually dictated by court rules, so to speak, and directives regarding personnel and whatnot. I thought it was kind of interesting to find out that
I'm not
Superior
sure.
Court. Go
I'm
ahead.
not sure what happened. I can't hear you. Can you hear me
Oh,
still?
I can. Can you hear me?
Hmm. Um,
Can you hear me now?
let's see. It's my
Now,
Okay. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. I don't know what happened.
Okay. Not a problem. So one of the interesting things about the Superior Court is that, for instance, I found out recently that Superior Court judges don't necessarily have their own law clerks. There's a pool of clerks, so to speak, that handle matters. So it's not really a position where I can go in and start dictating what I want. And one of the things I want to mention here is that there are a number of really good, well qualified judges on the Superior Court now. And I know that retention is an issue currently. And I think that keeping good judges on the court is of utmost importance. So it's not a position where I'm going in to really change anything, but rather going in to essentially do a job. And it's a job I know I'm pretty well qualified for.
And what is the one thing you would most want people to remember about you as a candidate?
Oh, good grief. That's a difficult question, I suppose. I keep finding out stuff about myself that I didn't know. I do a lot of genealogy stuff and whatnot, and my family history and all the things that my family's gone through over the years is actually relatively interesting. I would say this: I am not somebody who was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. So I have had to work my little fanny off to no end to get where I've gotten. I actually have an MBA in finance. I used to go to school at night to get that degree, and I worked a full-time job. I was lucky enough to be able, after getting my master's degree, to go to law school full-time. But unlike a lot of people, I actually had to work part-time while I was in law school also to pay for bills. So going through, and I know everybody who goes to law school or whatnot basically has a lot of struggles, but I could say one thing. I had to work and really work to get that title, so to speak. I also think that I've been a very fair person when it comes to things, and I'm very open-minded. I have actually changed my position over time on certain issues. So I'm not somebody who's set in stone about my ways. If somebody makes a compelling argument one way or the other on an issue, I am more than willing to change my position. And as I mentioned in one interview, if I lose the election, I'm also very willing to lose an election without becoming a crazed person over a loss. So my whole goal here is to try to be a voice for people who otherwise would feel that they don't have a valid option.
And lastly, is there anything else that you'd like to add or anything else you want the people to know?
No, well, I shouldn't say no if I'm going to answer that with some other words, but I think it's important that people recognize that there's a lot of issues going on with the court system. And one of the issues that I see is a recent attempt to try to remove our right to vote for judges from us. They're talking about going to what they call a merit-based system. And if we had a merit-based system, that would mean that only the two political parties would get to pick who the judges are, which I think would even create a more political situation than we're currently dealing with. But I also question why the two political parties, or some people within the two political parties, even think that's a good idea. I think we really need to recognize that we need to preserve our rights to vote in elections. And I certainly hope that people recognize that. And if you don't vote for me, please do me a favor. Make sure your representatives and your state senators know that you want to preserve your right to vote for judges and do so wisely. That's all I can say about that issue.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
What is your name and what role or office are you running for in this election?
My name is Stella Tsai. and I am running for the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania and I would just so you know, I'm a sitting judge in the Court of Common Pleas in Philadelphia.
Why are you running for this role, and what motivated you to enter this race?
Okay, so this election to me is about protecting the rights and freedoms of all Pennsylvanians, and the Commonwealth Court is the court that decides a lot of important issues because it is charged with handling the government appeals for both state and local, and also serving as a trial court when a Commonwealth is a plaintiff or defendant. And because of that, this court weighs in on some very critical issues of our day, including voting rights, free and fair elections, reproductive rights, environmental rights. You name it, they're all there. Workers' rights, labor rights, etc. And I have certainly been honored and love serving as a judge of the Court of Common Pleas. But when this vacancy was announced for the Commonwealth Court, based on my background and who I am, what I care about, it just was a natural decision for me to pursue this office.
And why do you believe you're the best candidate for this role?
There are several reasons, but I would just say that I'm not only highly recommended by both the Pennsylvania Bar Association Commission and the Philadelphia Bar Association. There might be some sirens. That's the hazards of working in City Hall. Okay. Nonpartisan, highly recommended by both, but I also have an unparalleled depth of experience both as a lawyer and judge. It's relevant to the work that this Commonwealth Court does. And I happen to know what it takes to listen to parties and hear what they're saying and treat them fairly impartially. I mean, I do know what it's like and what it takes to deliver justice without fear or favor. And I have an established track record for doing so, which all means that I'll be ready to do the job from day one.
What would you say to voters who are undecided about supporting you?
Well, I believe that Pennsylvanians deserve an experienced judge who is committed to the fair application of law and someone who will be, who will prioritize protecting rights. And the importance of public service had been instilled in me at a very early age. And I've just dedicated my life to public service, and that voter should know that I'm committed to doing what is right for the Commonwealth and for them as citizens, and what is appropriate, what is fair and just.
If elected, what is the first goal that you would have?
So I happened to have a chance to sit in on, listen to some of your other interviews, and my role as a judge is a little different from other candidates running for public office. So it's a little bit more procedural things I have to do. So I'll just let you know what I would do. I would need to transition. If I'm fortunate enough to win this office, I would need to transition and make sure that I wrap up the cases that are right for decision, and then make sure that the cases are put in a way that, I have a caseload, right? I have to make sure I pass them along in a way that the successor and the parties will have minimal disruption. And as soon as I'm sworn in, I'll be ready to jump right into the work of the court.
What is the one thing you would most want people to remember about you as a candidate?
Well, it's one of the things that I need to share with people so they know who I am, where I come from. And I was born in the United States because my parents had a chance to leave Taiwan at a time that's controlled by a fairly repressive regime that imposed martial law until 1987. And that regime incarcerated one of my family members, my uncle Tetsu Wu, for 18 years for the crime of producing plays that were critical of the government. He did make it to the United States through my mom, through family unification. And I think that one of the things I would say about him is one of the most cheerful, happy people you ever meet. And I know through looking at his life and through my life that there's certainly the factor there is his ability to be who he was and express himself as he wished. And those lessons really resonated with me as a young child and have continued to inform my work as it is today. So I would just say that you can be sure that you have a competent, of course, person handling the work of the Commonwealth, but also someone who's dedicated to enforcing the rights under the Constitution and making sure that we take care of each other.
And lastly, is there anything else that you want to add or anything else that you would like people to know?
Well, just a few things about I'll tell you something about my kids. I have 2 adult kids. One of them is Emmett, who's I don't want to leave out my husband. I happen to be Irish by marriage. That's what I say. My husband, Paul McCarthy, is a retired lawyer from the school district. Our 2 sons, Emmett Tsai McCarthy is an animator, and Atticus is the other son. Tsai McCarthy, he lives in Denmark now, although he did vote. He returned his ballot in Pennsylvania, and he happens to work for a company that called Lego, and he's a set designer. So that's a pretty cool job. And I'm just so proud of him, but they do care very much about this election and the protection of our rights. And that's one of the reasons that I would hope they are supporting me. And I know Atticus has voted for me. So that's a good thing.
All right. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much for your time.
What is your name and what role or office are you running for in this election?
My name is Mackenzie Smith, and I'm running for Judge of the Court of Common Pleas, which serves all of Chester County.
Okay. Why are you running for this role, and what motivated you to enter this race?
So I'm running for the Court of Common Pleas. I actually am a sitting judge on the Court of Common Pleas, so I'm a little bit in a unique position as opposed to the other candidates that are running for this role. I first became a judge in 2022. I ran in the 2021 election to be a local judge, which is called a magisterial district judge in Pennsylvania. And I won that seat, and I was kind of going about my business serving as a district judge when I received a call from the governor's office in January of this year. And the governor was appointing me to fill a vacancy on the Chester County Court of Common Pleas. So after I was confirmed by the Senate, my tenure is only for the end of the vacant term, which is why I need to run for a full term in this year's election. And I really, I've always been very independent. I'm a person who believes that my job is to find the truth, follow the law, and make sure everybody gets treated equally and with due process. And so from a philosophical standpoint, I'm running to ensure that I can keep doing that job and hopefully doing it very competently in Chester County for the next 10 years.
And why do you believe you're the best candidate for this role?
So there are 2 seats open this year, which I think is important for everyone to know, because on most people's ballot, if not everyone's ballot, the Court of Common Pleas is the only seat that voters will get to vote for 2 candidates. So it's an interesting position. There are 4 names on the ballot. You get to vote for 2. So, it's really the top 2, not necessarily the top person. But I do think having served as a judge for the past 4 years does distinguish me as a candidate. It's very important, in my opinion, to have judicial experience. Obviously, all of the candidates are lawyers. We're all very accomplished lawyers. But sometimes having that experience of knowing how to manage a courtroom, manage a very busy docket. We're extremely busy in Chester County. We have hundreds and hundreds of cases that each judge hears a year. And knowing how to manage that to make sure everybody who comes into court has time to say their piece and to be heard is a skill that can only be learned by actually doing the job. So bringing those 4 years of experience, I do think makes me a unique candidate for this position.
And what would you say to voters who are undecided about supporting you?
I would say look at my website and ask if you know any lawyers who practice in Chester County. Ask them if they've been in front of me, or even come sit in my courtroom, which is courtroom number 15 at the Justice Center. Judges, our courtrooms are public, so you can actually come and watch me do my job. I think that is obviously the best way to learn if I'm a good candidate for this position, but it obviously is time consuming. So I think asking people who have been to court, asking attorneys who practice in the courtroom, and then looking at all the materials and listening to interviews like this one would be the best way to learn who we are. Judges, when we're not running for election, we don't get to do interviews. We don't get to really interact with the community, which is very important to maintain our independence. But when we're running, this is our opportunity to kind of show who we are to the voters. So I am reachable through my website. I'm willing to have one-on-one conversations with people if they are undecided and they want to ask very specific questions to me. I'm here to answer them, and that's what a candidate should do.
If elected, what is the first thing that you'd aim to accomplish or to do, or what's the first goal that you have?
So I think just, again, being in the job already, just to keep doing the job that I'm doing. I have been in the job for 8 months now, and so I have learned a lot since I've been at the court. So there's a reason it's called practicing law. People practice law because you can never get perfect at it. It's a science, but it's also an art. And I would say the same is true of being a judge. So we don't come in as judges with an agenda. That's antithetical to what being a judge is. We don't go out and look for our cases. The cases get assigned to us. But I think my goals for next year, if I'm lucky enough to still serve, are to keep on the path of managing my courtroom very well, making sure that people aren't sitting there all day waiting for their case to be heard, if at all possible, and just making sure that everyone who comes into the courtroom leaves with the information and the resources they need to help better their situation, whether it's in a criminal case, a custody case, or a civil case.
And what is the one thing you most want people to remember about you as a candidate?
I want people to know that, I'm a very hardworking candidate. I don't take anything for granted. When I ran in 2021, I was kind of, I was very much an underdog. And I learned a lot from that campaign. I learned a lot about what it takes to run a campaign and be a candidate who's worthy of the support of the voters. And I also learned a lot about what it means to be an elected official in the past 4 years. So when I became a judge, I took an oath. And I think whenever you take an oath to do your job, it's much more than a job. It's a huge responsibility. And it's really not about me. It's about everyone that I serve. And I would just want people to know that, sure, I have great qualifications, I have experience, I have a lot of endorsements, but more than anything, I take my job very seriously and I take my oath very seriously. And to me, I'm a public servant. I'm not, the boss of everybody. I actually work for the people, not the other way around.
Is there anything else you'd like to add or anything else you want people to know?
I just want people to know that Election Day is November 4th. There is still a day or two to vote early or request a mail-in ballot if you haven't already, but that time is running out depending on when this interview airs. But November 4th is the day. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And there are resources out there if you are undecided or if you don't know about what races are on your ballot. There's a website that is put out by the League of Women Voters, which is a nonpartisan organization. It's called vote411.org. And if you go to that website and put in your address, it will actually tell you all the races that are on your ballot. They should be coming out this week with questionnaires that the candidates did, and you can make your own sample ballot. And I always say elections are an open book test. So you can bring all that information into the polling place with you. And, this is our chance to have a voice in our local government, which I think is the type of government that actually has most impact on our day-to-day lives, from school board, township supervisors, to obviously judges, from local judges all the way up to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. These are really important races. And just because it's an odd year doesn't mean we should sit it out. We should definitely try to make the time and get to the polls and make sure our voices are heard.
What is your name and what role or office are you running for in this election?
So hi, I'm Clay Cauley, and I'm running for Court of Common Pleas judge for Chester County.
Why are you running for this role and what motivated you to enter this race?
So I first moved to Chester County in 2007, but actually, let me back up. Prior to that, I was a student at Westchester University. And so Chester County has afforded me and my family a great opportunity. I previously was a zoning board officer in London Grove Township, as well as a part of the Open Space Committee. I'm running because I am compelled to make sure that Chester County has the best qualified candidate for this role. Someone that is fair, compassionate, and will serve with integrity. And I believe that is me.
And kind of touched on this a little bit, but why do you believe you are the best candidate for this role?
So in addition to some of the things that I stated, I've really had a very distinctive, distinguished career, and I bring a very diverse level of experience. I've had a career that, in large part, has been rooted in public service. I started out many, many years ago as an assistant district attorney. So I was a trial attorney that litigated some of the most difficult and challenging cases. I specialized in what was known as the Family Violence Sexual Assault Unit. So in that role, I dealt with a lot of victims who were dealing with traumatic injuries. It was very challenging for them to testify in court and face their accuser. So very early on, I understood that the court and the role that it plays has to be one in which there's compassion for whoever comes in front of it. But in addition to being a trial attorney with many, many years of experience, I've been an attorney for over 20-something years. I'm presently an administrative law judge. So I actually hear cases and decide cases now. To give you an example, if someone were to go into county assistant's office, they're applying for SNAP benefits or medical assistance and they're denied, they have the right to appeal that decision, and that goes before an administrative law judge. That's what I do presently. So my experience as an attorney, my experience as someone who hears and decides cases fairly, with integrity, with compassion, I believe makes me the best suited candidate for this role.
And what would you say to voters who are undecided about supporting you?
Well, first of all, I would encourage voters to come out and vote on November 4th. This upcoming election is Tuesday. It's right around the corner. I believe we're right at 7 days or less. Voters that are undecided, the way I phrase it is, I'm a resident of this county, as you heard me say. I've invested a lot of time in this county, active in the community. I've been a volunteer, coach. I've raised a family in this community. To folks that are undecided, I look at it as, what do I want to see in a candidate? I want someone who's well qualified, someone who has a track record of serving the community, someone who has the knowledge about the law, and someone that will be fair on day one. It's one thing to be an experienced attorney, which undoubtedly I am. It's another to understand the dynamics of managing a docket, appreciating the volume, and then making sure that everyone gets the attention that they need, to making sure that you're hearing and listening to every single participant. And that's a skill set that I possess. So if you're undecided, I would encourage you to take a look at my Facebook, go to the webpage, do some research, and come on out and vote for Clay Cauley on Tuesday.
If elected, what is the first thing you'd aim to accomplish or the first goal that you have?
If elected, the first thing I hope to accomplish is to get some rest. It's been a long process. After I get some rest the day after, my goal is to really be fair, to be impartial. This role is not a 9-to-5 to me. I served as a hearing officer at the courthouse in Westchester for many years, and I heard a lot of the child welfare cases. And invariably, I would spend time at the AOPC, which is the Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Courts. I would volunteer and spend time on work groups with transitional youth, hearing officer work groups. So for me, one of the things I want to accomplish is I want to hear cases fairly, but also re-immerse myself into a lot of the cutting edge approaches that are going on. Years ago, motivational interviewing was introduced. Family finding was introduced. I think it's important as jurists that we remain informed and impactful, and that is what I hope to be and hope to accomplish.
What is the one thing you would most want people to remember about you as a candidate?
That's an excellent question. So the one thing that I would hope that people remember about me as a candidate is that I'm incredibly qualified to be in this role. I understand what it takes through my history and growing up and dealing with diverse populations across socioeconomic classes, diverse people, I understand, I tell this story very briefly as I went to a school in high school that was a multicultural school. It's one of the greatest things in terms of an influence in my life because I saw people from all classes, all races, all backgrounds. And it really develops in a person a sense of just trying to understand different people culturally. So I want people to understand my experience and drawing from that and what I bring to the bench.
And lastly, is there anything else you'd like to add or anything you want people to know?
Uh, Briefly, I do have I think a pretty good sense of humor. So when I say I'll get some rest, that's just the first day. I don't want that to be a sound bite and I say, okay. But what else that I would want people to know is I'm a family man. I've been married for over 20 years. I have two young adult children that are both in college, both doing well, which I'm very thankful for. But I would want people to know that I'm committed. I'm committed to the residents of Chester County. I'm committed to making sure that justice is served. I'm committed to making sure that the facts are applied to the law correctly. And I think that's what you want as a citizen. That's what you want your judge to be. You want your judge to be fair, a good listener, not biased, and have a very broad, diverse background that he or she can draw from.
What is your name and what office are you running for in this election?
My name is Neill Kling, and I'm running for the judge of the Court of Common Pleas for Chester County.
And why are you running for this role and what motivated you to enter this race?
Well, I'm running for this role because I am, first of all, I'm able to do it and devote my entire, life to this for however many years there are. There's a 10-year term here. And I have raised my children. I have 4 boys and put them all through college. And now it's, I think, my turn to give back. I really want to make sure that the process of the courts is honored, and that we don't have a situation where judges are kind of free to do what they want to do. I'm a very process-oriented person. I realize that in litigation, we have advocacy, and I've been an advocate for my entire 37 years of litigating. But now I think it's time to go on the bench and be the neutral arbiter, the fair neutral arbiter that upholds the rule of law. And we are entering, I think, a period where people are starting to think of the rule of law as whatever is, quote, just. But whatever is just is actually what the law says it should be. And so we should, I feel very strongly that we really need to have an ethic of following the law as opposed to trying to put personal preferences into the courtroom.
And why do you believe you are the best candidate for this role at this time?
Well, at this time, I think I'm the best candidate because I have the most experience of in the litigation sense. I've mastered many areas of the law, many federal, many state. I think I understand the inner balance between state and federal pretty well, and I think I have the wherewithal to really take what I've done over the last 37 years and bring it to the bench in many ways.
And what would you say to voters who are undecided about supporting you?
Well, if you're undecided about supporting me, I think you are the people I do want to reach, because I think we've kind of cordoned ourselves off into camps. I don't like that. And I think that if you're looking for somebody who is not going to be beholden to one side or the other, and will do what the law says we should do and follow precedent and statutory law, that's why I think you should vote for me, because I think I have the ethic to do that.
And if elected, what is the first thing you'd aim to either accomplish or the primary goal that you would have?
Well, the first thing I do if elected, if I were so honored to be elected, because it is an honor, would be to talked to the other judges very, very extensively about what's going on in the court, what their experiences have been, what they think are problems, because they're the people really on the ground. And this is both Democrats and Republicans. This is not a party thing. And just try to fit myself in where I think I can. And that's either the subject matter of the cases that are being handled, or the the various aspects of the court that I'm currently unfamiliar with.
And what do you most want people to remember about you as a candidate?
What I want people to most remember about me as a candidate is that I am fair, that I am beholden to the rule of law, and that I also have real life experience, having lived in Chester County for now 33 years and gone through all sorts of things that people do, sending kids to school, commuting. I was on the zoning hearing board, so I understand land use. Many, many different experiences that I've had around the county that I want to bring to the bench and to, be a judge that really applies common sense to everything.
And lastly, is there anything else that I didn't touch on or that you didn't touch on that you'd like to add that you want people to know?
Yeah, one thing is that we have to remember that in this off-year election, and this is kind of an off-year election because we're not even electing the commissioners in the county. This is an election that people kind of sleep on, and it really is a imperative that we all get out and vote. Whatever your political persuasion, get out and vote, because the judges of this county and the row officers and the judges in the appellate courts, they are the ones that affect your life most directly. So if you can possibly get out to vote, if you haven't voted by mail and you make a plan, vote.
What is your name and what office are you running for in this election?
Hi there, AuCièl. Thank you for the question. My name is Lillian DeBaptiste, and I am running to continue my service as mayor of the Borough of Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Why are you running for this role, and what motivated you to enter or to re-enter this race?
Well, I am running to continue my service. I've been mayor for the past 4 years, a job that I have viewed as a joy, but a job. And I think that I bring to the office a layer of diversity that would otherwise not be seen in the borough of Westchester. I think it is important for everyone to have a voice at the table, and I represent the voices of those who choose not to use their voice. I represent the voice of the community, all of the residents of the community, and I try to work with all the diverse groups that reside here in Westchester and represent them all. So I am happy to be the current mayor, and it is a service because as mayor, you cannot lead by authority. You have to lead by collaboration and concern and care for the community and the people who live here.
And why do you believe you are the best candidate for this office at this time?
Well, I think I offer a voice, as I said, to those who are marginalized, whose voice is not heard. I think I offer a voice that represents the entire community. I've lived in Westchester for all my life. Essentially, I was not born here, but I certainly was raised, schooled, educated, and have participated in all the things that Westchester has offered. I've grown with Westchester, and I care about the town. When many were fleeing the town to go elsewhere, I stayed firm. My roots are here. My care and love for this community is here.
And what would you say to voters who are undecided about supporting you?
I would say, why? And I would ask them, what are their concerns? What are their, what are their values? Where are their values? And try to establish conversation to see where we align. And if there's some way that I can show them where I can align with them. There are some people that, who might not want me to be mayor, but I think if you have a conversation with me and you know how much I care about this community and how much I respect everyone's voice at the table, and how I respect the people who live here, I think that you'll understand that I put my heart and soul into this job.
And if
And also that, I when I first ran the first time, I ran to try to make a difference. And I feel that in making a difference, I make it by representing everybody. And I believe I bring a calm and a listening ear to everyone that comes to the borough and has conversation with me. And I have no political agenda. Some people may, I do not. This is the only job I've ever ran for in my entire life. And I have no intention for running for any other elective office.
if you are reelected, what is the first thing you'd aim to accomplish or your primary goal?
Well, the last 4 years have been good. We've gotten a lot done, we have certainly have contributed to the arts in many different ways. We've contributed by being a part of the inaugural Porch Fest activities and festival. We've contributed by bringing Juneteenth festivities to the community. We've contributed by having the Westchester Parade when Westchester turned 225 years last year. And now I'm working on the 250th year for next year and working with the Public Arts Commission to bring a mural to Westchester. So I've done that. I've worked with the Westchester University, and we have cleaned up. We've cleaned up all over Westchester, and now we've done it from once a year to twice a year. So we've done a lot of the things we talked about when we ran for office and the first time. And I think that, by expanding upon that, by right now, we're talking about budget, and I've tried to talk about different ways to help get that budget balanced for the borough. So we're talking about that now. And so, yeah, I've done a lot in terms of bringing forth programming into the Westchester community, and I look forward to continuing those efforts. One of the things I really want to focus on in these next 4 years is to talk about how we have more affordable and attainable housing so that Westchester continues to be the diverse community that it has always been.
And what one thing do you most want people to remember about you as a candidate?
As a candidate or as a mayor, I want people to remember that I have a heart for Westchester, and that that heart was seen in everything I did.
And is there anything else that you'd like to add or anything else you want people to know?
Well, I would remind people of the importance of voting. We have to get out the vote. I think if you don't use your vote, you don't use your voice, because your vote is your voice. And people need to respect and understand the power they have in that ballot, the power they have to make a difference, and stop minimizing that power that they have, because by going out and casting a vote for all of the candidates across the board that represent your values, I think that is key to this country. And I think that it's important to show the respect for everybody, not only in this community, but in this country. And so I would just remind everyone to please, whatever you do, wherever you are, please make a decision to cast your vote. Thank you.
This concludes our 2025 election Digital Candidate Forum. We want to sincerely thank all of the candidates that participated. For continued updates and news about the upcoming election, subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the notification bell to be alerted about new videos. You can also follow us on social media at Westchester Chronicle to stay up to date on breaking news in the borough. And if you want to help support local news so that we can continue to provide you content like this, please consider supporting us on Patreon. You can find the link in the description below. Remember, polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on this Tuesday, November 4th. You can find more information about this election day in the links in the description below. Thank you for joining us, and don't forget to cast your vote this Tuesday. I've been AuCièl Hicks with the Westchester Chronicle.